That is correct. They felt it was in bad taste.
Now, what is the ground for banning it? Just bad taste.
Yes,
now, supposing they would it be permissible for them to take every book out of the library they thought was in bad taste? What does bad taste mean?
If they felt that bad taste was related to educational suitability, I would think they would have that right as long as they
take every book out of the library that contained the word ain't?
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I was doing some light reading, and I was reading about the First Amendment. And it's so interesting, you know, in America we have a lot of freedoms. We have freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But how does that apply to freedom of reading? I'm here to find out. Students have the same freedoms allotted to them as their parents, like freedom of expression, freedom of religion, etc. But what if a student wanted to read a book like this one? How does the First Amendment protect a student's freedom to read a book like this one? A lot of people have different opinions on banned books such as Harry Potter, but what about students? What do students think? And teachers, don't teachers have an opinion too? I set out to find out their opinions for you.
Banning books violate the First Amendment? No, I don't think that they do.
You don't think they violate the freedom of speech clause?
Not in school. School has a defined curriculum, right? We just don't teach everything. We teach you certain things based upon what the subject is. So in some cases, there's material that's not related or not relevant, or maybe you're not ready for that material. Like in physics class, we don't go into what would be astrophysics, right? You need a foundation for that first. So, no, it doesn't violate First Amendment.
I think it does, but I also get why they do it. I mean, the Kite Runner, for example. If I read that as a freshman, I probably would not understand it. I mean, it is mature content, but I mean, just by banning books doesn't mean that we're never gonna read them. It might be too much for you to handle, but then it's in real life, people don't really sugarcoat stuff for you. So it's why sugarcoat us now if we're just gonna be thrust into real life and then it's boom, real life, It's
Probably.
Yeah, technically I feel like it does, but
who cares?
To some extent, you kind of have to, if a book isn't appropriate for this age group, then it makes sense to not have it read in the class.
Besides, it's not even that. It's who cares? We have these rules that are meant to make sure that the government does its job and people aren't losing their freedoms. But that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? A couple of books.
Okay, let's rewind a bit. Now that we have some opinions, what exactly is a banned book? Well, a banned book is a book that has content that is objectionable for readers, so it is removed from libraries. But what is this objectionable content? What does that mean exactly? According to the ALA, these are the top reasons a book is banned or challenged. Number 1, the material was considered to be sexually explicit. Number 2, the material contained offensive language. Or 3, the materials were unsuited to any age group. Well, what are some examples of banned and challenged books? Here we have the ALA's website, which has a wonderful list of banned and challenged books. And you'll find that a lot of these books we ourselves have read in classrooms. Among these books you have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, Catcher in the Rye, Grapes of Wrath, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Color Purple, The Lord of the Flies, 1984, Lolita of Mice and Men, Animal Farm, all sorts of books that we read throughout our high school years. Okay, so now that you know what a banned book is and you have some examples, it's time to hear what the Supreme Court decided in the Board of Education versus Pico. This 1982 case was the very first case concerning banned books and the First Amendment. In this case, the Island Tree School District created a panel of parents and teachers to evaluate 9 books. The school board acted contrary to their recommendation and removed these books from the district's junior high and high school libraries. Here the books are pictured. They cited that the books were anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, and just plain filthy. After that, a group of students, including Stephen Pico, challenged the board's decision to remove the books, and this is where things get interesting. At the federal district courts, the board won. Then the U.S. Court of Appeals reversed that decision and Pico won. After, the board petitioned the Supreme Court. Essentially, the question at the Supreme Court was, did the Board of Education's decision to ban certain books from its junior high and high school libraries based on their content violate the First Amendment? The court decided that yes, it did in a 5-4 decision. They held that as centers for voluntary inquiry and information ideas, school libraries enjoy a special affinity with the rights of free speech and press. Therefore, the board couldn't restrict the availability of books in its libraries just because they didn't agree with the content. This decision was made under the Burger Court, which you may recall from the videos we've watched in class. Writing the dissent was Burger, as well as Rehnquist and Sandra Day O'Connor. Their argument was essentially that if a school board can select teachers and curriculum, then they should be able to decide what books to remove as long as it doesn't interfere with the student's right to read and discuss it. Okay, so what are the consequences of the Supreme Court's decision? Well, it didn't outlaw banning books or censorship or even prohibit school boards from banning books. It basically just said that if a school board wants to ban a book, an inquiry must be made. And if the intent of the inquiry is to deny students access to the ideas in the book that the board disagrees with, then it violates the First Amendment. This court case really just set a precedent for later court cases such as these. You might ask, what about AUHSD? Does AUHSD ban books? Well, in 1978, AUHSD banned Gone with the Wind and Silas Marner. Nowadays, at AUHSD, we read a variety of banned books. And overall, whether you read banned books or not, happy reading.